Hey everyone, thanks for joining us and spending your Sunday night with us. My name is Todd Bonner and Jen Begnowski is with me.
Hello.
Chelsea is a little bit under the weather tonight, so she will not be joining us.
Everybody's sick right now, so we're just hanging in there.
At least it's not COVID though. That's the best thing. It's not COVID. So people can still get sick but not have COVID, thank God.
Yes. Yeah. No COVID here yet. Fingers crossed.
Oh, yeah. I've been playing it pretty safe. Tonight's guest is actually a good friend of mine. He is an author, a musician, writer, producer, director, you name it. He is that. He's super, super talented. And the one thing I want to say about our guest is he is a great, great person above everything else. He just has a heart of gold. And that is hard to find sometimes in people, but he is a genuinely good person. So let's bring our guest in, Josh Malerman.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Thank you for those kind words.
Oh, you are. You're very humble. I mean, you're a huge, and this is the thing I want to say too, Hollywood, New York, there's superstars in Michigan and you're one of them. You don't have to be in those places to be talented. You know what I mean? And you're a Michigan made guy. You're super creative. And I feel I'm creative, but not on that level. That there's people here in Michigan that are very, very talented.
You know, when I met my agent, this must have been, I just want to figure this out, 2012. Yeah, 8 years ago. When I met her, she was almost self-conscious of the fact that she was from Denver and that she was operating there. But she was like, I just want you to know, and it's 2012. Like, you don't have to be in New York City to be a book agent. You don't have to be in. And I was like, oh yeah, don't worry. I'm in Michigan. You know what I mean? Like it did open my eyes. It was the first time that I heard someone sort of qualify that and start to say, we're in the 2000s now. You don't have to be next to Penguin Random House for my agent to deliver a manuscript. She could email it from Denver. So to underscore what you're saying, in this modern world, I mean, you can be anywhere.
Exactly. And I think COVID even has shown that you can be anywhere to either film or talk about it right. It's been crazy, but I think everyone's learning how to do it. I shot a show for Discovery Plus Friday, and it's different because everyone has to wear masks. They make you wear gloves also. But it gets done. It's a strange way, but it's still getting done, which is I'm glad, because people are stuck at home. They need entertainment more than ever now.
Yeah. And people also need work. Me, not to jump into me right away or something, but my manager and I, we just started a production company called Spin a Black Yarn. And our first movie, like that we as producers put together, was filmed in October of 2020. For a second, I forgot where we were. And it really was this bizarre experience with the COVID testing tent outside, social distancing. The film only had 4 cast members, which made it COVID friendly to film. And then you see these kind of things. It's like, I mean, creative human beings are adaptable to times like this. It's like, oh no, we can't make a big movie. Well, we can't make a big movie. Let's make a small one. Let's make a four person that could be a play, and with a very small crew, a couple of cameras, and get the lights set up before everyone shows up. And it breeds situational creativity, something like this.
And it does. And I think it brings people back to the way films first started, almost, when it was small crews. And so these big, huge sets and budgets and hundreds of people running around, and you could still get it done almost the old way they used to do it. You know what I mean? Just a few people, a few cameramen, and director.
An odd thing about what you're saying is that, like, it almost feels, and I don't know if this is because of COVID or where we're at in life, or if we're all like wiser, but when you hear of like a movie with a $200 million budget, that almost sounds like garish now. It almost sounds like gaudy.
It's like a waste.
It does. It just sounds like a waste. Whereas when we were younger, let's say even in the 90s, right? And if you heard of like $100 million, you're like, what's that one? I bet that's a big spectacle. Now it's kind of like, I don't know.
And especially technology. And there's talented people that are editors now that are coming out. They're getting opportunities. People that wouldn't have gotten an opportunity before are now getting opportunities because they can work through these type of conditions.
Yep.
and it's keeping people working. That's the main thing, because there's so many people, and I know Josh and John, that lost their jobs, don't have jobs, or lost their businesses during this. So if there's other ways people can work and get back into the swing of things and making an income for themselves and their family, I'm all for it. Any way to do it. If you have to be super safe, I'm down for that too. If we can help any way we can.
Well, I think there's so much to be said about just being at home and then being forced to kind of think outside of the box with just ways of bringing in new money. And that breeds a lot of creativity too. So I can only imagine what you are concocting and coming up with on a creative level these days.
Okay. So check this out. I can't, you guys are awesome right from the start, by the way, because I realized that this is a bit freeform and really exciting. I love freeform conversations with smart people. So thanks again for having me. Okay, so my webmaster in the middle of the lockdown, my webmaster asked me if I wanted to. I have a free story up on the website, and he's like, "Hey, want me to put up a different free story? That one's been up there for a while." And I was like, I don't really have like a new one. I don't feel like writing a new one. I'm about to write this novel instead. I don't feel like pumping out like a new story just to do that. And then I was like, hey, wait a minute, Todd, what about if we serialize this? Like, as I write it, we post it. So we serialize it onto the website for free. No, like literally, it's not available anywhere else. It's not a hard copy. It's not even on Kindle. It's just on the website. I'll write it, rewrite it, you post it. And then as you post chapter 1, I'm working on chapter 2 and so forth. And so we did. And we did an entire novel that way. This is right with what you're saying, Jen, in terms of like, who in the world would have thought of doing this at any other time? But now to pretty much write a novel live. Okay, well, I put it up, and then chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. And I was like, you know what? I put out kind of like a bat signal. I was like, I'm doing a book live right now. Does anyone want to do drawings for it? Does anyone want to do music for it? And like, it was unbelievable. There's a guy here. I'll show you. Give me 1 second. It's right here. There's a guy who did music for every single chapter that is now a soundtrack on CD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He like a full-blown soundtrack that he made to go along with this live book. There was a woman named Cindy who was sending me photos daily that jived with like the chapters. There was 2 different people that were sending like drawings per chapter. Oh, there's a guy named Shane that wrote poems that went like his reaction to the chapter. In other words, you're right. It was like we're all at home, and it was like we could still all play together as long as I was understanding, or as long as everyone understood, hey, this book's being written live. There might be spelling errors and this and that, and as long as it was understood what we were all doing, there was a total freedom to it.
I remember when you started that, and it had a good response to it also, and it's something different. It's like almost watching a series, but you actually have to read it. You know, episode after episode, and you had posted each, like you said, you wrote a chapter, another chapter until the end, and people were hanging on the edge of their seat, and that's good for them to read. I think people need to read more, and the way you had it set up it was beautiful, just like a regular series you would watch on TV, but you would read this as it went along.
It's still just sitting there on the website, like it's not anywhere else.
Yeah, that's
so cool. Such an interesting concept too.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's a little maddening, a little nuts to write a book live. Let me tell you, because if you don't know where it's going, and you're like, "Uh-oh, I'm halfway deep," and people have been reading along, and you're like, "Well, this better go somewhere good."
Well, and characters really take on a life of their own too. I think that every character almost kind of has its own soul. So when you're trying to create these stories and it's live, so it's spur of the moment, you kind of have to get in touch with each character or each plot twist and say, like, where is this really going to go? Or is this character going to grow and evolve? Or are they going to stop growing and evolving? Like, what is their purpose? So to me, the fact that you even took that on is just crazy amazing. I don't think I would have the guts to do that.
Well, but what you just said is totally right? Like the characters have their own soul. And then because there's a spotlight on it, and we could really be talking about anything at this point, because there's a spotlight on it, you almost had to commit to it, meaning I had to commit to it. It was like, okay, this is next. And and I want, people seem excited, and so this happens next, and then you're just like, that's it, that's what happens, and then you're like, oh, I'm fine with what happened. Whereas if you were alone with it in your room for weeks, you might have been like, is that good? Is this right? I'm gonna try this instead. So it was almost like forced confidence. Also,
was it different to get that instant response? Because like you said, when you write a book or a novel, it's just you and you writing. This, you put it out there, and to actually see what people respond before the book's even done.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a little bit horrifying. I made sure that the webmaster, that there weren't any comments on the website, no reviews, just let it breathe on its own. I don't need like halfway through like a bunch of people like, this sucks.
That would definitely kill the mood.
Imagine making it like 2/3 of the way, and then you look at the comments and nobody's into it.
Yeah, that was probably good, because people, when they get a chance to comment, they say some crazy, stupid shit, unfortunately. Right. All right, I want to ask you something. When you were growing up, obviously you're into horror. What was your first horror movie you remember seeing as a kid?
Oh man, it's the greatest experience, one of the greatest experiences of my life, because I was about 12. I'm a little bit late in that way. I hear about people, they're like, I saw The Exorcist when I was 7. I'm like, what? What do you mean you saw that when you, okay, fine.
I actually saw The Exorcist when I was 8. That was the first horror movie I ever saw. Well, yeah, my mom was big into horror movies.
Let me ask you, what did that do to you?
It scared me. That's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen to this day. It's still one of the scariest movies, because I think that stuff can really happen. But my mom let me watch that. It was on TV or something at the time. It was back in like the 80s. I was probably, it was late 70s. And then I saw Night of the Living Dead was the other one that one of the first horror movies. And those always stuck with. I've always loved horror, though. I've always been drawn to it. I just love that heart-pounding adrenaline type feeling you get when you go, read a horror story or watch a movie or go to a haunted house.
Yeah.
I loved it. I've always loved it. It didn't make me a nut job, though. I didn't turn crazy or anything like that.
Right.
I'm somewhat normal, I think.
It's interesting because I remember at Eloise, you and I like jived right away, because I just was so impressed with how honest you were from the second we got there. And that you were saying that you said to me something like, man, this place scares me every time a little bit. And I was like, whoa, the ghost hunter just told me that this place scares him. And you can imagine what's going through my mind, right? I'm like, I don't know, I can't go in there if you're scared. But there was, and then I was like, oh no, this is just an honest person that I just met. And he's telling me that this place, there's some energy in this place that he freaking feels. So yeah, so you've always, I guess, been honest and into that. And okay, so my first one, I was 12 years old, and I was playing basketball with my cousins and my cousin and my brothers. And my uncle said, and I don't know what I said to encourage this or to show him that I might be a future fan of horror, but he was like, hey, Josh, there's a movie that I think that you would like. And he played for me Twilight Zone, the movie.
Yeah.
And the reason this was so perfect as a first movie was that it's an anthology, right? So in my first horror movie, I got to see, do you remember all the segments? Have you guys seen it?
Is that the one with William Shatner when the being was on the wing?
But in the movie, it's John Lithgow.
Oh, yes, it was John Lithgow.
Yeah, that movie. Yep.
Yes.
And so the first segment is Vic Morrow. It's like a social commentary where he's racist and crazy, and then he gets put in like he's the minority, right? Yeah. Like the ultimate awesome Twilight Zone, right? And so that was the first segment. The second one was Steven Spielberg's Kick the Can, where the old people kick the can, they play Kick the Can, and then they're young again. So it's more like softer horror. The third segment was Anthony, who could do anything with his mind, anything. So he removed his sister's mouth. Every day was his birthday. He only ate ice cream and pizza. Cartoons on the walls, right? So with that segment, I saw the limitless of horror by way of imagination. And then the fourth segment was John Lithgow on the airplane, which was like a creature feature. So age 12, the very first thing I'm introduced to is not just horror, but like a scope of the genre all in one sitting. And that was it. I was in. Like from that day on, I was in.
And the way the Twilight Zone I think they came out with a new one. I don't really. I think I watched a couple episodes. I wasn't really sold on it, but they did that. It was more of a mind twisting fuck type thing, and then it had a horror. They'd sprinkle horror in there every now and then, like real horror monster stuff. But it was all that psychological stuff, to get your mind really working. And I still watch the old Twilight Zone TV shows.
It's the best, man. It's like on Netflix, I think, right? Still,
yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah.
What when did you decide to start writing? And what was your first thing you wrote?
Well, I tried to write a novel in 5th grade about a dog, whatever, that was like an ambassador for Earth or something, whatever. And I was like, I'm going to write a whole book because I've been reading books at that point, right? And I'm like, I'm going to do one of these too. I made it, who knows? I probably made it 5 pages. I have no idea. In my memory, it's like I made it halfway. What does that even mean back then? Then in middle school and high school, I started writing the worst emo poems you can imagine. Like just, oh man. Like I have a whole box.
That's the time for emo.
I have a whole box of them like back there that I won't even let Allison see. Although who knows? Maybe if I looked right now, I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I will look into it. Okay, this conversation may have just changed my mind a little on that. Okay. But then I was like, I'm going to try to write a short story. And this is, I think, in high school and college level. And I tried to write a horror story about like a model, like a photographer that's obsessed with this model. And what is this look in her eye? Like, who, and then it turns out that she has 2 glass eyes, right? He like follows her like home or whatever. And then she sits down in front of the vanity and she's like, and he's like, oh. The look in her eyes, she has no look in her eye. I mean, right. It's like the ultimate twist, right? But I do remember that being like, and I wrote the whole thing being like, all right, that's a story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, it's done. I could show someone this. But I tried to write a novel at age 19.
Okay.
And I failed at writing novels, 4 or 5 of them for 10 years, between 19 and 29. And all I mean by failed is didn't finish. Because to me, I don't care if the rough draft is good or bad, like at all, I don't care. But I really care if it's finished. Because if it's finished, you then have something you can work with and you can make better. If it's not finished, what are we even talking about? There's nothing here at all tangible whatsoever. So 10 years of, I don't know how to finish one. What am I doing? And I'm in a band at that point and we're touring. And, I lived in New York and I'm concurrently trying to write novels, failing. And then we had a few months off the road and I devised this like plan where I was like, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to write 2 books at once. That way, when I get stuck in this one, I'll turn to this one. And when I get stuck in this one, I'll turn back to this one. Like they would help each other or something, right? And I made like a few pages into the first one, got stuck, turned to the second one and just exploded. Just absolutely exploded. Wrote like 310 pages in 20 something days. It was the first book I ever wrote. It was the most electrifying experience of my life. Like seeing the end, knowing the ending, being on page 280, knowing you only had 30 to go around, whatever it was. And like, oh my God, this is it. This is that moment. Oh my God, I'm finishing a book. So that was at age 29. And then not long after that was like, hey, let's do another one. And now there are 33 of them.
That's amazing.
There's 2 giant crates behind you. There's a crate behind you. There's 2 well, there actually is stuff behind you.
Yeah,
but there are 2 crates behind the computer that are just loaded with rough drafts.
You're channeling in creative work. I love it.
Yeah.
He's a madman. He's so creative. You are, Josh, super creative.
Hi.
Always come up with different ideas, and you're putting them pen to pad, and you're very successful. I think you're very deserved of all the success you have.
Thank you.
What I do want to talk about is Birdbox. Obviously, I love the book. But I also loved, because you see movies that are made out of books that are horrible. The movie that Netflix ended up buying the rights from you and doing the movie was so close to the book. Like if you had to watch the book, if that makes sense, they were tied together. You know what I mean? It was perfect, and I thought it turned out great. I don't know what your opinion is on it, but it was, from reading the book and then watching the movie, it was so close to the book. You know what I mean? And you don't get that too often in movies. They go off the rails sometimes and do other things, but I thought it was great.
Well,
it was phenomenal.
Awesome. Great. I mean, you can imagine. So I got a book deal when I was 37 years old, and for Birdbox, and before Birdbox came out, Universal first optioned it, right? And that was like just mind numbing, like Universal Monsters and everything.
Magic,
yeah. We were like, Universal Studios just optioned. I don't even have a book out yet, but I had written like 15 by then or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, Birdbox is not only like it's picked up, it's like also optioned. I mean, it was electrifying with Allison and me and the music scene, our friends, all that stuff. It was just unbelievable. Then some time passes, and maybe they'll make it, maybe they won't. And then Netflix bought it from Universal. Shortly after that happened, Sandra Bullock got on board to play Mallory. And at that point, I think I was in Grand Rapids when we got a phone call about that.
Yeah.
It could have been the John Malkovich moment when we got that call, but I think it was Sandra Bullock. And at that moment, we're like, whoa, wait.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Right. Right. Because it was like, this is like the Audrey Hepburn of our generation or something. This is like this is a movie star that's going to play Mallory, like a great one who's going to play Mallory. And we were like, Allison and I were like just dumbstruck, you know? We're just like, oh, okay. Like, that sounds good.
I saw
someone online was like, isn't she too old for Mallory? And I was like, what? Like, I don't care if Sandra Bullock's 150. Like, she can play Mallory anytime. Yeah, man. Like, whatever.
She's a generational actor of our time, a female actress of our time.
Yeah, I was just, and still am, like, floored by it. So right away, there was a sense from me and my manager and everyone of like being just so glad that it was happening, grateful that it's happening, that it almost like didn't matter to us how it came out. Like, we wanted it to be good, but if it wasn't, it wasn't. Who cared? Like, this is so exciting.
Right.
And then Allison and I flew to LA, and we went to the Netflix headquarters in one of their screening rooms and watched the movie. Like, just her, me, my manager, my lawyer's wife, and maybe two other people, maybe. And the screening rooms are like, you know, small, a few chairs, like there's no previews. The lights go out, the movie starts right away. And I mean, from the word go, because it starts exactly like the book, and I was like tears in my eye, like just frozen silent for like 2 hours. Like, I cannot believe what I'm seeing right now. So, like, are there elements like, yeah, maybe I think they're a little liberal with their blindfold. Who gives a shit? Like, this is like, yes, I loved it. And maybe more importantly, I'm just like insanely grateful that it happened at all.
I think it was done well. I mean, I'm so happy for you that this has happened. And then Mallory, which is also an awesome book. I finished that.
Mallory, you did? Awesome.
I did finish it. Yes. Awesome book. It's what, 10 or 13 years after?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like 10 after they arrived. Yeah.
And that again are they going to pick that one up for a movie? Did they pick that up?
Well, so they told us that development has begun, which sounds like a really vague thing, but that's exactly what they said to us with Birdbox. So far it's going exactly as Birdbox did, which is, we don't know really what's going on, but they tell us that it's begun.
They can call you in 2 weeks and say, yeah, they're getting ready to cast and everything else, or shoot or whatever.
Exactly. Yep. So like literally tomorrow we can get a phone call that like, oh shit, okay, that's happening.
The other thing I want to talk about, I've always wanted to talk to you about this, I guess it's a good time, is where does that come from? I feel that entity or energy could be demonic. Like, the devil has came to earth. And I know a lot of people think it's alien or man-made disaster has caused this, because the people see their worst nightmare, or their worst of people. And you think, I always thought it was like demonic. The devil came back and is trying to wipe out the human race, possibly. What was your, I guess you don't want to give that away, I guess, of where you think it came from. You could probably do a prequel book about where it generated from. You know,
that'd be super exciting. I can't speak to like what I would think that they might look like or anything but like that, because number one, I would never do that. But number two, I kind of just long ago said to myself, I know as much as Mallory knows, and that's it. In Birdbox, you know what I mean? Like that's whatever she knows, I know, right? But I can say this, that when I sat down to write it, I began with just an image. I just thought it was a cool, freaky image. I blindfolded mom and 2 blindfolded kids like escaping, fleeing in a rowboat. I don't know. I loved it. It was like autumn. It's cold. Like they're not allowed to look at what, I don't know. But let's go. We'll worry about that later. And of course, 1 page into that, you're like, okay, wait a minute. What are they fleeing from?
I think that's part of the whole psychological part of it. You can't look at these things.
I totally agree, but I didn't see it at the time. It was just like a thrilling scenario, a thrilling idea, like mom and kids escaping. What is this? So I had this sort of, I guess, memory of in middle school, a teacher who had told the class once that if man or woman were to attempt to fathom infinity, they would be driven mad. And everyone, the teacher says this and everyone goes about their business in class. And I like raised my hand and I was like, wait, hold on. So if you just tried to imagine, like to comprehend infinity, you can go mad. He's like, oh yes. Like it could drive someone mad if they tried to determine where time began or where space ends. It could drive someone mad because we are not equipped to come to understand that, to comprehend it, to come to a conclusion for that. Nothing satisfactory to how our minds work, right? So that night, I'm like, I will never forget it. I'm like sitting on the floor in the hallway as my brothers and mom are like getting ready for like to go out to eat or something, and they're all like talking and whatever. And I'm like, don't think about where time begins. Don't think about where space ends. Oh man, don't think about where time begins. Don't even try. Don't even attempt to fathom infinity. Don't even try. Don't. I mean, I was like, I'm going to go crazy. I can still remember being like afraid of that. So years later, I have this mom, kids, blindfolded. What can't they look at? Well, maybe there's something there that if they saw it, it would drive them mad. And so I was like, oh shit. What if like the concept of infinity were somehow personified? Or just any concept at all that is beyond our reason were personified. So there's a knock at your front door. You open it and infinity is standing there. What might it look like? Well, I don't know if it matters. What really matters is that you are not able to assimilate it. And so you would go mad by what you are witnessing, right? Because your mind is trying to assimilate this thing that it cannot. At that moment, I was like, all right, yeah, shackles are off. Let's go. And I wrote that book in like 26 days.
Oh, wow.
The rewrites were extensive as F, but that original draft was just a gorgeous blur. It was one of the most rewarding, like artistic experiences of my life, that rough draft.
You just kind of had that where you just flow. It was just all flow for you right through.
There wasn't a single hiccup, man. I mean, again, the rewrite was extensive. So the writing was clunky and crappy and whatever. And there were like twice as many housemates, just stuff,
Yeah.
But just the whole roll of it, the beat of it, the scene of like the well and the birth scene in the book almost didn't change at all from that rough draft. Tom and Don and meeting these characters, whatever. I would like write what amounted to like 4,300 words in a day. And then I would, by noon or whatever, I would just hang out, friends, play in the band, whatever. And by nighttime, I would be like, okay, and then tomorrow they get water from the well. All right. And then I'd wake up and 4,300 words. And then for like a month straight, not even. And there was never a roadblock, never like, oh shoot, why did this happen? Or who's this? Or you need to explain Mallory better. It was just very fluid experience.
And it seemed like the movie was just boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? It told the story really well. When did you immediately start thinking about Mallory after Birdbox, or did you take some time down to kind of regroup and figure out how you want to write that?
So the rough draft of Birdbox was about like twice as long originally. And I removed a thread that I felt was just like it was, if Birdbox were like, let's say if Birdbox were a keyboard, right? Right now, I feel like it's 1 or 2 notes that are just held the whole time. It's just one solid mood the whole time through right now. But that other thread kind of added like another note that came in now and again. And I was like, let's get rid of that. Let's just get rid of that thread. You like it, but let's get rid of it. And once it was gone, I started to sort of think about it, like, could that be its own book? And so eventually, between having that idea and thinking on it, maybe one day, between that, seeing Sandra Bullock play Mallory on screen and like seeing it for myself and wanting to know, I don't know, more about the story or something. Like imagine like the first time you saw X-Men, imagine if you had the power to write X-Men 2, right? You'd be like, all right, I'm on it, right?
Yeah.
And then, so that's what it felt like. And then the third thing was that the totally surprise success of that movie. And if you add those 3 things, the idea, Sandra Bullock, and the success of the movie, I was like, all right, I'm writing it right now. And so, and then Mallory came out of that.
So you had just, when you're writing Mallory, you obviously just pictured Sandra Bullock as Mallory.
Right? It was kind of like a battle because remember, so I wrote the rough draft for Birdbox in 2006, which is crazy. And then I sell it to the agent, picks it. I didn't sell it to an agent. She just represented it. She picked it up in 2012 and she shopped it. She got the book deal in 2012, whatever. So by the time that it was picked up by HarperCollins, I had already been with Mallory for 6 years. And the way that I imagined her in my mind. Yeah. And so then 2 years later, the book comes out. So by the time the book comes out, I'm 8 years deep with Mallory. So by the time the movie comes out, I'm like 12 years deep with Mallory. So, but we are talking about Sandra Bullock. So yes, it was like a battle the whole time writing. Like she would like Sandra Bullock, and then like my original Mallory, Sandra Bullock, original Mallory the whole time.
What is your original Mallory? I don't even know if you could describe what she looked like to you.
She kind of looked more like, because I got her name from, this is going to be like the weirdest thing I've ever said in an interview, but I got her name from Justine Bateman from Family Ties.
Yes.
So I always saw a little bit of Justine Bateman as Mallory, and not in like a not in a movie star like we're going to go target Justine Bateman or something, more in like just a memory of this strong brunette from my youth.
I think everyone had a crush on Justine Bateman, though.
Yeah. And so it was kind of an amalgamation of her and something a little more, just because Mallory's a bit of a fly on the wall in Bird Box. She's obviously way more. She has to have more agency in Mallory because she's a parent of teenagers. But in Bird Box, she's pregnant, right? So she's almost like relegated to fly on the wall. And she so sometimes I would just picture her sort of more plain, also, just like in the descriptions are like dark hair, that's the only description for Mallory. Like dark hair.
Someone you would see that you would second look at, like, so nondescript or whatever in real life. So she was like the fly on the wall that no one really noticed.
Yeah, like there was Tom was like the house optimist. Don was the house, I guess, pessimist. Obviously Gary was a whole nother level of stuff. But like it was almost, and she was rooting for Tom, but she wasn't quite as like, I don't think Mallory would have gone out searching for dogs. Tom did. And she rooted for him, but she worried also, like, maybe you shouldn't go. Like, so she was a more sort of guarded optimism. And she worried about Don's pessimism, but at the same time, she understood why, how could you not be fucking pessimistic in this scenario? So I really do see her as being sort of how I think I would have behaved in that scenario, which is I probably would have been a little bit frozen with fear, a little bit paralyzed with it. And I would have rooted for and ultimately sided with the optimist, the progressive thinkers in the house. But I would have been still listening to the cynical, the more suspicious minds as well.
It's a hard, if it ever happened in real life, it's so hard to put yourself in her position to make the decision she had to make. You know what I mean?
What do you think? Do you think that you would have been like, what kind of, like, you know what I mean? What kind of personality? Like, do you think you'd be like, let's try to film one. Or do you think that you'd be like, hey, close those freaking windows and one day someone will tell us this is over?
It would be like they didn't have enough information either yet of what was going on. So it'd be hard to say, like, let's film it, or I would probably.
You would.
I would think I would lose my mind. I would think I'd be so scared I would lose my mind. But then there's a human side of you that would take over to help, to try and help people.
I think Jen's right, man. I think you would. I think you would actually be. I think you would. See, that's interesting, right? It's almost like we're almost wired to react to meet big moments. And I think that if that Birdbox scenario happened, I don't think any of the three of us actually know, because I think we'd actually perform better than we ever could have dreamed we would. And I think that if that was actually upon us, and the options are just sitting still and being horrified all day or doing something, I think all three of us would probably do something.
I think we would do something too. Because you would only be able to be gripped in fear for so long.
Right.
And then your inner strength would come through eventually.
Right.
To try and either survive, because we're all built to survive somehow. Our natural instincts are to survive. But it is just the book and the movie is just nerve-wracking. You're like clenching your teeth sometimes, and you're watching this journey. And if you try to put yourself in that, what would you do? You know, you think about it. What would you do if you were in that situation? It would be a hard situation. It'd be tough. But you see her progress when she finally was on her own with the kids, how strict she was. I think she understood what she was put on this earth to do was to save those kids, protect those kids, and make sure they survived, and put her life before theirs, which is hard for people to do. People say, "Oh, I'd die for you," all that stuff. But in the book and in the movie, she put her life ahead of those kids, and the one, you know, she didn't even know, you know, but she raised as her own, you know.
Yeah.
You think about like those dynamics, the human side of it. How would people react? How would people really react to that situation? People are selfish sometimes. People worry about themselves and say, screw you. But there's a lot of good people left in this world, I think, that would help as many people as they possibly could to survive, including themselves, and do whatever they can. You know what I mean? You have to look at it all aspects. It's crazy, though. It's crazy. It's a ride.
Yeah. I mean, I think that she also came to a point. See, this is interesting because Mallory comes out, right? I mean, the cover alone, Mallory comes out, and it's all about a face mask. I mean, it really is. The whole, and obviously I wrote this before the pandemic, and I'm not, believe me, I'm aware that this is a fictional fun romp and this is reality happening out here. But it is interesting that it's a book about someone who's staunchly, hey, we have to wear these blindfolds. If we wear these blindfolds, we'll be safe. And anyone who thinks beyond that or higher than that or whatever is like foolish and will eventually get bit and die from it. So what I think that is interesting, though, is that in the Mallory world, a progressive thinker is dangerous. But like I mean, I guess I don't know you guys that well, but I consider myself somewhat progressive thinker. And I would even say that that's a more sort of noble stance. But so is wearing the mask in our world. In Mallory's world, the mask is like the root, like this is safety. We know this is safe. And someone who thinks beyond that, like Tom, the man, and Tom, her son, later in Mallory, they're dangerous. Because they're like, Tom's like, I think there's a better way to live. And I think I could have a hand in making this happen. And Mallory's like, you are dangerous.
Taking that risk.
Yeah.
No, it almost is like a parody to what's happening now, unfortunately, with wearing the mask out in public. And, you know, there's a lot of people you hear, you know, it's taking our freedom. It's not taking you're being safe. The alternative, you can get sick and die.
I know.
People don't understand. And I know. Whatever side you're from or whatever, it's just common sense. And even if you're out in public, it's courtesy to protect others. Normal people think that way, no matter what side, what race, religion, anything like that. I don't get it. It's strange, but it's kind of a parody almost, because you see that in the book. People just refuse to follow things that will keep them safe. They always want to fight against things that will keep you safe and keep you alive.
I saw an article, I think it was in McSweeney's. I had nothing to do with this article that said, the title of the article was, "The Mom from Birdbox Says, Wear Your Effing Mask." And then it was a whole article as if Mallory wrote it. telling you like why you should wear your mask. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever read.
That's pretty cool that they did that. What you got a new book? Did your new book come out yet? I saw you post something the other day. Is it getting shipped yet?
Yeah, A House at the Bottom of a Lake.
Yes,
came out like a week ago.
That's my next one.
Congrats.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, it's about two teenagers who it opens pretty much with their first date, and on their first date, there you go, canoeing. Right? It's like the weirdest. I think it sounds like a really cool first date, but it's like the weirdest first date ever, right? And then while they're canoeing and getting to know each other and nervous as hell and all this, they pass over like the very top of a house. They're like, whoa, what is that beneath us? It's like, that, dude, that's a roof. That's like a steepled roof, like, you know? And so begins like, I mean, we have to jump in and look at that thing, right? And we got to like check this out, right? I mean, like, come on, we can't just be like, oh yeah, we saw a house. We got to go down there. So begins James and Amelia's like discovery of each other and discovery and exploration of this crazy house at the bottom of the lake that they pretty much have all to themselves for the summer. But obviously, it's not a super fun or scary story if something doesn't already live there.
Right. I can only imagine. I'm gonna pick that up. Actually, I'm gonna order it tonight. Actually.
Yes, my next read.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's jump to the paranormal stuff. Now, I know you got a couple of good stories. I think one was you're on tour with your band, wasn't it? Some club you're at.
Oh, yeah, that was. Yes, I forget. Thanks for reminding me. I'm glad that you know that. I would have like searched my head for hours for what you're talking about. We played a bar in upstate New York. And by then I'm already writing horror novels. By then I'm already reading about, you know, more occult stuff. I mean, I guess I was when I was younger, but now as an adult, you know, doing this and writing and this stuff. And I'm interested in this stuff. And so we pull up to the back. It's like this small, sleepy town, like, you know, like overgrown trees and all this, you know, like upstate New York is pretty old school, ghostly. I mean, that's like Sleepy Hollow is up there, you know? Mm-hmm. So the back door to this place opens and we're loading in our gear. And there's like, you know, we walk past this like stairs down, walk through this back door into the main room. We drop off our gear, whatever. And then I walk up to the bar and I'm like, can I get a drink? You know, and she's like, oh yeah. And while I'm having like my first drink, the woman told me like, did you know that the devil is kept prisoner or is kept like in the basement of this bar? And I was like, the fuck does that mean, man? You know, I'm like she doesn't know that I write horror or anything yet. You know, I don't have a book out or anything, you know. I'm just in the band, you know, and I'm drinking like, come again? Say that again. And she's like, oh yeah, like a lot of people believe that the devil is trapped in the basement of this bar. Like you are standing above him right now. And she was like people come out here to study this place. There's been like reports written about this place. I was like, what are you talking about, man? So I go back outside to grab the next piece of gear. And then as we're walking back in, there's those stairs leading down to the basement. And I was like, Derek, to the drummer, I was like, I told him what she said. I was like, do you want to go down there? And like, do you want to see what's like, what's down? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay, yeah. Of course, how can we not, right? Yeah, let's go. So we start walking down like the stairs, and I was first of the two of us. And dude, I made it like halfway down the stairs, and I was like, no, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. It had that, you know that feeling when people talk about like vortex towns or like have you ever been to the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park? Where it's like the quartz there or whatever it is in Sedona or whatever it is in New Mexico, Roswell. It felt like literally like a force field or like an energy. Like I was literally entering an energy.
Like walking into the energy, yeah.
Yes, like literally walking into it. And I was like, no, I'm out. Let's go. And Derek's like, come on, really? I was like, no, yeah, I'm not going down there. Come on. And we like went upstairs, and the rest of the night we played a whole show up there and everything. And I'm just like, the whole night I'm thinking about like, what's below this stage, man?
Crazy. I would love to go. I mean, because I'm insane sometimes, I'd love to check that out, obviously, to see if the devil's really there. It's probably not the smartest thing to do. But I know that, and Jen is a psychic medium, so she knows that probably better than all of us. That energy. I've been in haunted places where you walk in, you're totally normal, you walk in, next thing you know, you feel like a different person.
Absolutely.
You can feel that energy shift that does something to you. And I've had to leave places before that were haunted because I felt sick or I felt get angry sometimes for no reason. You leave, you walk out the door, and you're totally fine again. It's a weird. It happens. I believe in that stuff, so I know what you're talking about. I know that feeling.
So I'd probably just get eaten if I win.
I'm so glad I have so many questions for you guys now. I'm so glad that you asked that for me to tell this story though, because like, okay, when I did go on a ghost hunt in Estes Park, someone led us around.
Yeah.
And somebody in the crowd said, like, is this a mean spirit that you're? And he's like, I would never take you to meet a mean spirit. Like, no, we're trying to speak to like a friendly enough or just a ghost that we believe lives in this, area. But no, if it was like demonic or mean, I wouldn't be taking you on a tour to it, So that made me think about that place. And like, in what circumstances would you go search that? Like, would you just, the two of you, is that something the two of you would seek out and investigate because obviously it's super interesting and maybe it's something else than the devil and they just call it that or whatever? Or is that the kind of things where it's totally red flags and you're like, no, not that place?
I don't know. I'm so inquisitive about stuff. Like, I want to push the envelope a lot. Obviously what we do is a pseudoscience. But I've seen and Jen's seen and felt and heard so many things that I believe in the supernatural, the other worlds. I don't know about that though. Someone said the devil's down there. I guess Jen would pick up the energy before I would be able to.
Yeah, I would. I mean, honestly, walking in, I would see what I felt. And if it felt that terrible, that dark, that heavy, then my red flags would absolutely go up and I would not want to go down there. But if it was something that I just felt like the energy was very intense and I felt more of like a pull or drawn to it, then I might want to explore it. These days, I've been finding that I get more intense red flags than ever before. So I just pay attention to my gut. If something says, don't go here, don't go into this room, then I won't do it. But if I kind of feel like it's okay, or my spirit guides are telling me like, you'll be fine if you go here, then I trust the information I'm given and I'm willing to explore things.
That's really awesome to hear you say this. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but let me ask you something. Okay. Do you think that you're seeing more red flags now because you what's the right word? You have matured like into your ability or your senses? Like, do you feel like it's more like you're having a more mature experience with it, or just the experience of having gone like ignored those red flags before and now you're like, no, I'm listening to it now? Like, how do you account for more red flags now?
So it's both. I've definitely grown with my gifts and abilities over the past few years. When I think back to when I first started with a lot of this stuff, I did ignore a lot just because I wanted to learn as much as I could. And so sometimes I put myself in more dangerous positions just because I wanted the experience, I wanted to learn. But now that I know, I'm kind of not needing to do that to myself anymore. Sure. So it's very much a bit of both.
My theory on this is the world is in chaos. It's the word. There's so much hate and negative energy in this world, more than ever. I think more than I've ever noticed in my lifetime. I think that's contributing to this energy shift that we're having. You can feel the negative energy. It's like almost cutting it with a knife, I think. I don't know if Jen, if you feel that too sometimes, but
there's a huge
the environment's screwed up. There's so many factors in it now that it's so different than what it used to be, that I've noticed just the last few years, even with shadow figures and things we've captured, paranormal evidence, more than ever lately. And I'm not saying this is all theory. I don't know for sure, but I think all these other factors in our environment, the way people are today, have contributed to things happening in the paranormal world.
The veil is definitely thinning. And I think because mankind is at such a huge turning point right now, it's very much sink or swim for the human race. It's kind of like we have to fix our planet. We have to become better people. We have to grow. We have to evolve as a society, as a collective. And if we can do that, the planet stands a chance and we can keep moving forward. But if we don't, then the alternative is not very good for anybody right now. And so I do think that that's why it's very easy to pick up on more of the negativity and to feel like everything is in chaos. A lot of times when I do like my meditations or things, I do feel like I get information even from Eris kind of coming through. And so I feel like she's just having a ball right now with planet Earth and just wanting to see what's going to happen with all of the humans. So hopefully we can save our planet and live to tell the tale.
Save each other.
No, that's super. Wow, that's super interesting. Did you say Eris?
Eris, goddess of chaos.
Oh, okay. And then that's super interesting because I anytime someone says to me, they're like, no, it's just social media, and so now everything's always been exactly this way, but now it's uncovered or something. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I'm not saying that if I went to Starbucks to get a coffee right now that it would be super negative in there. Okay, I understand. And if I go to my dad's house, like it's not like a fight's gonna break out or something, right? But I also don't think that this is just like everything's always been the same. I think it's different right now. Like there's no question it's different right now. We're like at a peaked moment in our lifetime. I would say the most peaked. Like this is. I asked my mom often recently, is this what it was like in the late 60s? Was this what it was like in the late? Was this what it was like with Nixon? Was this what it was like with war? Was this what it was like with the division amongst people and whatever, globally? And at first she would say like, no, it was different. And then recently she started to be like, yeah, this is actually a lot like the late 60s.
That's what my mom, with the riots here in Detroit and, Nixon, the presidential trouble he had. But I think even this now, it seems like people draw the line. Either you're with me or against me. It was never like that before. Whether we have social media or not, it's like, if you don't agree with what I agree with, this is how people think. You're my enemy now, almost. It seems like, you know what I mean? And before people, I don't know. There's the humanity, and people feel it feels like it's gone to some extent. Like people don't look at people like they're people anymore. You know what I mean? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think it's changed. I'm not saying I've been observant, but I've always kind of had a pulse of what's going on around us, and obviously the news and social media fuel a lot of the things and keep us informed, but just talking to people on the street, people you meet, people seem different to me. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking differently, but it just seems we just need to be good to each other. We need to be good human beings, take care of each other and lift each other up. And it seems like there's more people criticizing people now. You get the bullies, even, we had bullies in high school, but now they're vicious. People are more vicious now than ever before. Suicide, the rate of suicide is tripled, I think, in the last few years of what it used to be. Really? So something's happening. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a weird time, strange time. I feel bad for my kids. They're teenagers. One's a senior in high school, one's a freshman, another one's in 7th grade. It's just we grew up in easy time compared to what they had to grow up in now.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I know that's how I feel too. I feel like the 90s were like Wonderland and like mood wise.
I never thought about any of this stuff. I never thought about the stuff that's happening now. You know what I mean?
I talked to a 21-year-old. I was interviewed by a 21-year-old. And at the end, he's in college. And I said to him at the end, I'm like, man, this got to be a pretty interesting time to be a college student, right? Kind of expecting him to be like, oh, this is awful. But he was like, oh, man, it's super interesting. There's all these like political topics that we all discuss. And obviously the pandemic stuff's just, crazy, rotten or whatever. But his take on it wasn't like here, you and I were like, oh my God, it's so dark. And he seemed more like, oh yeah, we're like all really charged in discussing it. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's good. I don't know. Maybe I am just used to a much more sort of chill environment or something.
I know, maybe people are more intense now and I'm just missing something. I don't know. I'm like you. I'm just chill and relax. You know what I mean? And it seems like everyone's so intense now. It's just, I don't know.
So have you guys been going on like the regular amount of like investigations and hunts and stuff?
We've already done 3 this year. So I still do that. We've had to go to Indiana and some other states that are kind of loosened up. We've done some stuff in Michigan. Traveling out of state has been difficult. We were supposed to go to Dallas last year. We're supposed to go down south a few times this year. But it's, every state has a different guidelines to follow. So you have to read up on that and travel restrictions and what's open and what's not open. So it's hard. It's hard to try and navigate. You don't have that total freedom where you can just plan something, go there, and it'll be okay. You have to really look into it, research it, find out, what the COVID protocols are for each city. Sometimes are different. So it's a challenge, but we're working through it. We're doing the best we can. It's just, you have to do it. If you want to continue doing what you do and what you love to do, you'll find a way to do it, figure it out.
Yeah.
Doing it safely.
Sure.
It's different. All right. We got a few minutes left. What about your paranormal experience at Eloise?
I loved it, man. Absolutely loved it. So there was, first of all, Bridget was amazing. Like, totally amazing.
She's awesome.
Yeah, like really just, and then as you know, I met with her online. You were involved in that as well the last time.
Yep.
Just like an awesome person who's obviously excited by all this, just like we are, and just, well, especially you two. And I was so freaking scared on the drive there. And when Alice and I get out of the car, and you guys all looked like so like pro to me, and I'm like, oh shit, man, Allison, I don't know if I can do this. But then Bridget's family was there, and that calmed me down. I was like,
yeah.
Okay, all right, if her dad and okay, I could do this. Like, if her dad's like, I could probably outrun him, right? No, anyway. So, but I don't know what floor it was, but both Bridget and I think Allison too. So if you went up the stairs, it was like that end of the hall.
Okay.
And it was a room on the right at that end of the hall. So it was a far end of a hall of one of the floors in that room. And so Bridget was like, oh my God, there is super strong energy in that room. And then she left. And then I went in that room alone, and I was like, oh man, it was almost that same thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
Those like vortex places, cities, or that basement of that place, which by the way, I should do some research and find out the name of that place.
I know. I don't know. I can't say I would love to go there and find out, but I would love to just know and like look up what happened there.
Just look it up, right? Because like I bet I could find it from like a old tour sheet, like the shows we played, rather than Googling like devil basement upstate New York. Like maybe I can. That might work too. But that was so anyway.
Who knows? People probably could write that, but no, I'd like to find out and see if it's. That'd be strange if it's never been like anything published about that place. If the lady said the devil's in the basement and nothing else has ever happened or written about it, that'd be kind of crazy too.
Right. And she also said that people came because of that to like either, I don't know if that meant to investigate or just to snoop. I don't know. You know what I mean? Nowadays, you'd be like, what do you mean people came? Like, what do they do? They go in the basement? Like, and I'm like, do you go? I didn't even ask her if she goes, like is there like storage in the basement? Like, what's down there? Like, do you go down there? Because what if
but I think you have your own, everyone has their own natural intuition, your gut instincts. And I think when we do the paranormal, I think mine's for the last, 10 years I've been doing this is heightened because you're in the dark. You have your senses are heightened, your hearing, your eyesight, your smell, your taste. And I think I've been able to, and Jen could do it way better than me. When we go to a place like that, you would feel it. Even at Eloise, like you said, you walked in that room, your intuition's good. It's very sensitive. And that's a positive thing because you can apply that to your real life. You know what I mean? You could find out, you're talking to this guy, oh, he seems like a jerk to me. You get that intuition, you get that vibe off people. I think you can apply that anywhere in life. And I think doing what we do, ours is kind of heightened more and maybe trained a little more. I don't even know how to figure it out. I'm still learning too, but it's odd to me the way those feelings happen out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too. Especially like you could and oh my God. Hello.
This is Abby.
You have a question for Josh?
Yeah, she's like, why'd you add that dog scene in Birdbox? That was like that was weird.
You watch it with me.
Yeah, because in terms of like a city or that mystery spot in the UP where it's actually like a location, then like if there's like an actual like location, then you could be like, oh, maybe it's the earth, maybe it's the quartz underneath, maybe it's the right. But just one room of a building. And we're not talking about it was colder. We're talking like you said before, like that you feel like the pushback almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally like you feel something like push almost. okay, yeah, electromagnetic, you know, I get it, all that stuff, sure. But what do you, Jen? What do you say? Like, what does that mean? What to you? If I at the end of the hall, there's a room that Bridget goes in and she's like, "Oh wow, something's in there." I go in, I'm like, "Man, something is in there." And Allison the same. What does that say to you?
So I think you're picking up on some kind of a spirit or an entity that really wants to be known. And it's a place like Eloise is so interesting because there are imprints of psychic energy that are left throughout that building. So the energy doesn't necessarily have to have a consciousness to it. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. And I think because there was such a dark history involved too with Eloise, that you have a lot of things there that aren't even really quite human. It's kind of almost like when the lower vibration aspects of us don't cross over to the other side, they can kind of like fester and remain in a building, and it almost can become something demonic. It doesn't mean that it is a demon, but it's a very low vibration entity. So if you're going into a room and you're getting that really heavy sense like there is something in here and it's not good and I need to leave, it's probably because it's something left over from a person that was at one time living, but now it's like the darker qualities of them that are kind of just hanging out there. Because I think the good stuff crosses over, you know, our higher self, all of that, like all of that kind of transfers over when we cross to the other side. But the lower vibration stuff doesn't always move. A lot of it stays here.
Okay, when you say lower vibration, do you mean like jealousy, anger, rage? Like those, is that what you mean by that?
Yeah. So human emotions that just don't really align with the higher best version of ourselves. So yeah, absolutely. Jealousy, envy, rage, anything that.
I'm writing this down because that sounds like the lower vibration entity. It sounds like a cool story idea.
Yeah.
But I love that concept. I've never heard of that before, ever in my life. The idea that, I mean, whether it's passing from plane to plane or just right now from room to room, the idea that you could shed the lower and bring the brighter with you. Why is that really exciting? Because like, imagine entering a party when this is all over. Imagine entering a party and you're like, I'm just going to bring the bright. I'm just going to bring the light, the bright stuff. Mm-hmm. Imagine having that conscious decision. Like I'm literally going to, in the same way that you would take your shoes off, I'm going to leave the lower vibration shit outside. And like that's, by you just saying that, that makes that sound a little more possible.
Well, think about it when you surround yourself with positive people, how good you feel, how good the energy feels. And when you're around someone that's negative, always complaining, how it brings you down to a certain extent, you know, and you just want to get away from those people. So
that's always
that's what Jen's, you know, so I try to surround myself with positive people. I didn't always do that. I'm guilty of letting people hang on that were negative, just assholes, because I liked them and cared about them, loved them at one point. But those type of people will bring you down. They really bring you down. I think, you know, what Jen's saying is those energies that are like that will carry on to the afterlife with the jealousy and anger and trust issues and just all that stuff. It's just all negative. You have to shed all that negative energy. And that energy that hangs around is the super, super hard energy to deal with. Honestly,
jealousy, it doesn't get much darker than jealousy, man. When I was much, much younger, like I'm talking like 17, like I was like a jealous boyfriend. But I mean, I don't even know what I was jealous of. Maybe like a movie star. I mean, I don't even know what the hell I was jealous of back then. Right. What was there to even be jealous of? Like I had 2 cans of pop and I had 1 or something. Like I don't even know, right? But I remember like shedding that. I remember like the moment that was just like where I was no longer that. And it felt so good to identify.
It makes you feel good. It makes you feel good.
I'm not a jealous guy anymore. And like with Allison, like never. I mean, maybe like once, but like almost never. And it's like, what a nice feeling. Jealousy is for me, that was about as dark as it got. Like, ugh.
Yeah, it is. Jealousy is a very, very nasty trait to have, and it brings people down. And you look at people that are jealous, that have that flow with that, they're just not happy people in general. You know what I mean?
I know.
I would have some laughter and fun. And I mean, life's not always like that. You're going to have situations you're going to have to deal with as an adult. We can't always be kids still, even though I'd like to, that you have to deal with, you know? So, but having those people around you, and Jen's had this before too, having those type of people around you brings you down. Once you let them go, you feel better. You feel healthy.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because there's one part of you that almost I used to at least feel like I had failed if I wasn't able to be myself, no matter who I was around. Like, why am I different just because I'm surrounded by a bunch of negative Nellies tonight? Why can't I still be the fun one? Doesn't mean I have to bring everyone up, but why can't I still be the adder, the fun?
Just be yourself. Yeah,
Well,
just be yourself.
The thing that kind of blows my lid is that if you're in a room full of people that think you're funny, you are funnier. And I don't mean you make more jokes. I mean the actual content of your jokes. Like, you're funnier. And it really says, like, more than I'm like, oh, I'm really on tonight. Not just because someone laughed. You're like, that joke was good. And then that says to me, like, the power of, like, encouragement or like, you know, like communal energy or that kind of thing.
That collective vibe and that collective thinking. That if you're around people like that, everything's funnier. When you're trying to be funny, it is funny. It really is funny.
Right. It lands. It sticks. Yeah.
Everyone transfers energy, whether they realize it or not. So that's why it's so important to only try to send out the good energy that you want to share with somebody else, because either way, it's going to be exchanged.
We had an incident like this. It doesn't even matter what happened, but there was an incident with this one guy once where it was like this guy had wronged us. Was this the Old West? He wronged us. And I was seconds away from posting about this on Facebook. I never had done that. I've never like, I mean, you know, Todd, like I don't ever see me one time smear someone or yell at someone. I'm like,
no.
But at this time I was like, I'm gotta fucking do this. And I was about to, and the guitar player, first of all, Allison was number one, but also the guitar player in our band, Steven, wrote me, he's like, dude, no, like, don't do that. That's not your thing. Like, it's not you to do that. And I was like, what do you? Okay. And I didn't do it. And I'm so fucking glad to this day. It's years later. And now we are actually like friends with that guy again. And it's like, but for that one moment, I almost did that.
Sucked into it. You almost got sucked into it.
I was that close, dude. Like, fingers on the keyboard. Like, I mean, I felt so righteous and right to do it. And Allison's like, no. Like, that's not you. And Steven was like, that's not you. And it was like, okay, all right, fine. But it's kind of scary to think that you could have a brush with sort of like a public display of something that's really not you, that you fell into it or you get sucked into it for a day.
Isn't it strange how you not even paying attention could change you as a person? That those emotions can overcome you sometimes and do something that's out of character. It's strange how that stuff happens, but it's caused by someone else. It's not you. It's caused by someone else that almost makes you, and that person's probably a prick. You know what I mean? It almost turns you into that person. That's what's the crazy thing.
Now you're just like, you know, I mean, you know, yeah. I did. That's like a no for me. Never go.
No, it's I avoid all it. I'm the same way. I just put positive stuff on Facebook when I get on there and keep there's people that are like that though. They love, you see the drama on Facebook, you see people, you know, calling people out and this. I'm just not that person. It's not worth my time. You're out of time though.
Well,
so Josh,
we have to stop. Does your episode end at an hour and 10 minutes?
No, we're over. We're at an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, it was over. It's an hour long.
So like we can't keep going?
Yeah, we got it. You want to?
Sure. No, but we can stop.
Where can people find you at? What do you got going on next?
I just did a rewrite of like a giant book, man, like 1,100 page. I wish it was still on my desk because it's so big. I finished that. That will be coming out later this year. And then Goblin, which is a book of mine that came out in a limited edition, is coming out in a wider way in, I think it's in March, even in like a couple months. Okay. And that's the immediate like future. And the band has an album that'll be coming out like later this year as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you guys are good. He's also with the band High Strung. You're co-founder of that band.
Yeah, very we all are. We've all been like best friends since we were like 11 years old.
That's cool too. You're still able to do that stuff. You are living the American dream. See, there still is an American dream, and you're living it, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah, same with you two. I love what you guys do, man.
No, I tried. There was a time where I was kind of embarrassed. I grew up. My dad was a cop and all that stuff. I told her all the time. I went to Catholic schools, and back in the 80s and 90s and stuff, there was no one to talk to about this. Obviously, there was no TV shows, there was nothing, and it's ingrained in you going to school that ghosts and shit like that don't exist. You know, the boogeyman, all that stuff's all fake, or fairy tale or whatever, and then that's ingrained in you growing up. And as I got older, I questioned all that stuff. I always question stuff, and but I think it's great now that we're able to, and I'm still growing, you know, as a person and learning myself, and hopefully it's always going to happen. You always evolve, I think. But I enjoy it, and I don't care what people think about me at all. I'm having fun. You know,
Yeah.
I enjoy what I do, and I love the people I meet. It's been a ride.
Right. It's super interesting, like minds and people, like, just, you know, how often do I have a conversation like we're having right now where Jen's like talking about like shedding the, hold on, I wrote it down, the lower vibration entity, like setting that stuff behind, like that's super fascinating to me. So I used to get really not jealous, but like when I would hear like of ghost hunters and this kind of thing, I'm like, man, should I be doing that instead of writing like novels, you know? And I'm like, no, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. But it is something I would like to get involved with more and to be a part of more. I had an amazing time with you, and I would love to go to another location with you again.
Yeah, I'll take you out this year. You're pretty close to us, so yeah, you can join us. It's fun though, and I'm glad you enjoy it. And it kind of opens you up to other things. You know, once you have your first paranormal experience, you kind of notice other things around you. You know what I mean? You kind of open yourself up really to other things happening. Like, did that wind just really close that door, or was it something else? You know, you never know anymore. So it's been a ride. I absolutely love it. I love writing blogs about it and talking to people. And we do a lot of historical preservation too. So we're actually making a difference, helping save historical buildings too. It's a fun thing.
But the ghosts, no.
No, we always try to give. I want to give back. I want to do anything I possibly can, even if it's the paranormal and you don't believe in ghosts. We work with charities and historical societies, and if we can give back, we've been very fortunate to get where we're at. And I always want to give back. You know what I mean? Because we were at the bottom. We struggled for a long time. It's a struggle. You build yourself up and you put a lot of hard work in it. But now we're able to give people experiences and give back and help people out. And I think maybe that's what I've been meant to do. I don't know. I question that sometimes. It sickens me to see people suffer. Honestly, it does. So if I can help out in any way, I will.
Same. I wish that I would, like, sometimes during this pandemic, I'm like, I wish that I was a billionaire who could like literally just hand out, like, you're struggling here. Like, come on, like, let's get through this fucking thing together, man. I know it actually like haunts me a little bit. Like, I know it's a fantasy that probably a lot of people have, but the wanting to, like, you'll see all these people like out of work or whatever, and you're just like, fuck, I want to like help them, you know?
I know. I feel the same way. I think only good thing about this whole pandemic is you are starting to see people step up and actually be good human beings and helping each other out, which is good to see. But it's a sad time, but it's a good time. I think we're going to get through this. I think everyone's learned a lot about each other, about like spending time with your family more than ever. You know what I mean? And I think for me, probably Jen too, we're always on the go before all this. Now you had to slow down. And so you can kind of appreciate things that you might not have appreciated before. You did, but you just didn't pay attention to them. So I think I've always thought you have to look at, there's got to be a positive in the silver lining to all this situation. Why is it? There's a reason why it happened. There's a reason why, and we may not know now, but I hope that there is, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only way I can make sense of the whole thing. If there's the silver lining to it. Because if there's not, it doesn't fucking make sense.
Got it. You know, I mean, really, truly, I think people just needed to slow down so that way they could actually take inventory of what's important in life. And this is forcing people to do that.
Really forcing people to do it.
Yeah, same. Me included. Although all I was doing before was writing like a maniac, and that's all I'm doing now. The only difference is I don't I don't host any parties anymore.
I know. I still owe you and Allison dinner whenever this is done, and when restaurants open up, maybe we can go grab a drink and some dinner sometime.
Yes, we're in. We are 100% in.
I mean, I miss things like that. I miss having a group of friends together or go having a drink somewhere. I do miss that stuff. But not to the point where I want to die. The virus can kill you. You know what I mean? So I'd rather be alive till this is over with and get back to that. But
me too.
We'll get. All right, Josh, where can people find you at your social media handles?
I mean, it's just my name in all the places. So it's just Josh Malerman, but only one L in Malerman. JoshMalerman.com has that book that's up there for free that I was talking about earlier. And then on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that. That's just it. And then all the books are, I would push like to get books from indie stores at this moment in time more than ever, because BookBeat has a lot of my books and any indie store that near you. If you are interested in getting Birdbox or House Bottom Lake or any of this, just it's like obviously it's a rough moment for them, whereas it's not a rough moment for Amazon. So I'm not ripping on Amazon. I'm just saying it.
No, I know it's a whole other thing. But yeah, if you could go to your local bookstore, pick these books up. There's a lot of small bookstores around town, and they're still there. So go buy from them if you can.
Yeah,
because Amazon will be Amazon. They're going to be, they're billionaires already, so they don't need our money.
Yeah, not right now. Not like this.
All right, Josh, I appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
That was amazing. Jen, Todd, thank you. That was totally
awesome.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks.
Awesome.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.